The Orgasm Gap. First of all, what is an orgasm? It can be described as a climax of intense feeling followed by a feeling of relief and relaxation. As a disclaimer, this presentation focuses primarily on heteronormative, cisgender humans. So have you heard of the orgasm gap? The orgasm gap is the inequality between women and men in the frequency of experiencing orgasm during partnered sexual activity. Specifically, heterosexual women are less likely to reach orgasm with a partner than are heterosexual men. But does an orgasm gap actually exist? Yes, studies have shown that the orgasm gap does exist between heterosexual women and men, and even lesbian cis women with vaginas have significantly more orgasms than heterosexual women. Only 65% of heterosexual women reported that they usually or always orgasm during heterosexual sexual encounters, compared to a whopping 95% reported by heterosexual men.
When discussing the causes of the orgasm gap, it's important to address common Western conceptions of sexual intercourse that focus on penile penetration of the vagina to male orgasm. Unfortunately, this focus serves to deprive women of orgasm by completely ignoring clitoral stimulation. Some more specific causes include lack of knowledge of female sexual anatomy and functioning, dysfunctional beliefs about sexuality and masculinity, societal scripts that connect men's sexual prowess and self-worth, and a lack of training in sexual communication skills. It's also important to note the role that media and porn plays in the orgasm gap. Media and porn often portray women who orgasm as uncivilized, irrational, and unruly. In addition, the fact that female orgasm is not tied to ejaculation makes representing a woman's orgasm difficult, which leads to unrealistic expectations for how, when, and what orgasm looks like.
So why is the orgasm gap an issue? Well, it can be extremely distressing to not be able to orgasm. In fact, female orgasm has been stated as the most common sexual difficulty presented to practitioners. Many women state having feelings of dissatisfaction, disappointment, disinterest, and even downright disgust when it comes to sex. There's also a ton of shame around orgasming, with many women often going into sex worried that they are taking too long to orgasm or concerned if they are even going to orgasm at all. This shame and distress leads to them going into sex feeling like they are not entitled to pleasure, and instead focused on men and their pleasure, which can cause performance anxiety, and in turn make orgasm even harder. Why are orgasms important? Well, they lead to feelings of satisfaction and relaxation. It may not be the goal of every sexual encounter, but this gap needs to be addressed for those who it does concern.
So how can we close the orgasm gap? First, get to know the clitoris. Men, provide direct clitoral stimulation as it is essential to orgasm. Women, figure out what type of clitoral stimulation you need and transfer this type of stimulation to partnered sex. Research shows that self-focused orgasm goals do increase the likelihood that women will orgasm. And don't forget about oral sex. Studies show that receiving oral sex increases women's orgasms. Secondly, practice sexual mindfulness. Pressure to achieve orgasm is linked to stress in women, and that pressure to perform for both women and men makes orgasms less likely. Orgasm is often the result of a pleasuring/eroticism process rather than a performance imperative. Mindfulness is useful in taking the focus away from a performance-oriented view of sex and placing the focus on pleasure and eroticism. And lastly, be assertive and effective in your sexual communication.
Yeah, like that. All right, pass it over there. A little bit to the left. And to the right. So it's my turn. Keep going.
Effective communication has been found to be important in sexual relationships. Assertive communication enhances sexual arousal and is related to sexual satisfaction. The more sexual assertive you are, the greater sexual self-esteem you'll experience and greater sexual satisfaction overall. So again, how can we close the orgasm gap? We learn about the clitoris. We play with the clitoris and are sexually mindful and have straight up communication.